Hello, and welcome to Mental Contraband, the show for independent thinkers who are brave enough to question the unquestionable rules of family, religion, and society. This show is for anyone who considers themselves an agnostic, atheist, spiritual but not religious, or simply open minded enough to explore different viewpoints. And we approach all topics while being kind and respectful and having the humility to acknowledge we don't know everything. And of course, in every video, I like to inject a sense of humor, so stay tuned for the humor section at the end. All right, today we're going to look at what to say when people try to evangelize you. I imagine a lot of people watching this have had people from different religions try to convert you. So, do you ever have someone try to debate with you over God's existence or whether their particular view on something is correct? And this is for any different view that you have, whether it's Christians or Muslims or Christian adjacent things like the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, or even for ardent atheists who are just trying to make you feel dumb for whatever you believe if you are a believer. Here's what you can say. Now, if you enjoy debating, by all means, go for it. But if you're in a hurry, or you want to keep the peace with a loved one, or I know different people watching this will have different backgrounds, but maybe if you have had a lot of trauma based around religion or something like that, and you're just not in a good emotional place to talk about something, then whatever the reason is that you don't want to talk, in this video, we'll cover what you can say. So I will give you the trump card for every situation on how to handle it so that you come out with your peace intact. So I'll get to those trump cards in just a minute, but first I think it's important to have a few perspectives that put the discussion in the right light. So when it comes to supernatural topics like belief in God or a certain religion, I believe the honest answer is, I don't know for sure one way or the other. You might have a pretty good idea that you're right, but if you're being completely honest, you don't absolutely know. So admitting our own ignorance starts from a place of truth and honesty. Only then can you have a real conversation with someone. That's why at the beginning I said we have to admit we don't know everything. There's a podcaster of several podcasts, but the one I like with him the most is called The Political Orphanage, and Andrew Heaton is the person who runs that. He has a great way of framing a lot of these discussions. He says his religious beliefs have changed over his lifetime. I might be getting this wrong. I don't remember the exact details, but I believe he started out Baptist and later became Eastern Orthodox and then later became an atheist and then maybe an agnostic or something. I can't quite remember. And then also his political beliefs have changed. I believe he said he grew up as a Republican, later became a Democrat, later became a libertarian, and now he just calls himself an independent. So with all those changes he's had, he recognizes that he was honest in his beliefs at certain points, but he later concluded that he was wrong on something. And so he says that he thinks at any point in time, of all the things he believes, he's probably right on about 75% of it, and he's probably wrong on about 25% of it. He just doesn't know which things fit into which category, which things are in the definitely right category, and which things are the definitely wrong category, even though he's trying sincerely to believe things that are right. And so I think that kind of humility is very helpful in the way we look at these things, because at the end, when you're talking about things that are largely unprovable, you can get a pretty good idea and you can look at all the evidence and try to make your best decision on what seems right to you. But a lot of times we just truly don't know. So with that in mind, when you're getting into a debate with someone, I think there are basically three responses to people who want to debate with you. There's the ardent debater. They like getting into the minutia and they are out to win the debate outright. And you're happy to fight on every little detail. Then there's the peaceful avoider. They want to sidestep the debate arena altogether and just keep things peaceful. And then there's what I call the conversational realist. They're somewhere in the middle. They don't care for the minutia. They're not going to just fight for the sake of fighting and arguing, but they're happy to engage in genuine conversation. And they're acknowledging that the other person has genuine, heartfelt reasons for what they believe, but they aren't going to waste their time arguing with someone who is just unwilling to have an honest conversation. So as you're hearing that, I'm curious, the people listening to this video, in the comments, let me know which one you tend to be. Are you an ardent debater, a peaceful avoider, or a conversational realist that finds yourself somewhere in the middle? All right, so the first one for the ardent debater. If you're in the mood for debate, then go for it. But here's my encouragement. Make sure you know your stuff. In my experience, both theists and atheists tend to be very lazy in their arguments. There are some people who are brilliant and really deep in their thoughts, but a lot of times people just pick very lazy stuff because they don't bother to understand the other person's viewpoint. A lot of times the angry atheist will say, you're just an irrational anti-science idiot who believes in a sky god, or the religious believer will say, you know in your heart that God is real, but you just want to sin and deny what you know is true. And the reality is there are many deep thinkers who have genuinely wrestled with these issues. There are many sincere arguments for believing or not believing in God or a particular religion. And I think it's important just to treat the person as if they're acting in good faith and make sure you're acting in good faith as well. Just know you're probably not going to change each other's mind in one conversation. And if someone says something you're not sure about, you can always say, that's an interesting point. I'll think about it and get back to you. Can we resume this conversation some other time? So again, I think that's important to say. So there's your trump card in that situation. If you're really trying to go for a debate and then you kind of just hit a point where you just don't know what to say, you can put a pause in that and you can say, that's an interesting point. I'll think about that and get back to you. Can we continue this conversation some other time? And then honestly, then actually do it. Like, think about it, look up stuff if you need to. And then if you realize, oh yeah, I should have thought of this, you can always come back and have that conversation. Or if you realize, oh, they actually had a good point, then acknowledge that and be honest about it. And I think that creates goodwill toward people in discussing these things. Now, if you're the peaceful avoider, if you are absolutely not in the mood for debate for whatever reason, here's your simple thing to say. Just say, I don't wish to discuss it. And then if they keep pushing you and they keep saying, no, but you got to do this, then you can always say, once again, I don't wish to discuss it. If you keep pressing, I will need to end the conversation. And that's all about people respecting your boundaries. They are not owed a conversation by you. They have freedom of speech, but you have the freedom not to speak and ultimately to walk away. So you have to stick up for yourself in that situation. You just have to stick up for your boundaries on that. But if you don't want to discuss something, you don't have to. And so once again, the phrase to say on that is, I don't wish to discuss it. If they keep pushing, say, once again, I don't wish to discuss it. If you keep pressing, I will need to end the conversation. Now, if you're the conversational realist, you're not trying to just be in a strong fight, but you also don't want to cut off all conversation. Basically, if you don't want to wade into all the analytical debate arguments, but you also don't want to completely cut everything off, here's the ultimate thing you can say at any point. When somebody's trying to push you on something, you can say, I don't know for sure, and neither does anyone else. And I think that's being honest. They can try to say, yes, but the probability on this view is high, or the preponderance of evidence compels you to believe in my position. You can respond with, that may be, but I don't know for sure, and neither does anyone else. If they say, I do know for sure, then you know they're not being honest. And you can call them out for it. You can say, that tells me you're not being honest, and I can't take anything else you say in good faith. At that point, they'll probably back off and admit there's some level of uncertainty. If they do, then you can have an honest conversation about why you both believe what you do. But if they offer different evidence for their beliefs, you can always come up with an alternate explanation for it. Someone says, why are things here? Or they try to give you evidence for the historicity of the Gospels, or Muhammad's the beauty of Muhammad's writings as evidence of divine revelation. You can always come up with other explanations for those things, and some of them are going to be better arguments than others, and that's totally fine to acknowledge that and discuss those. But there is always an alternate explanation for these things, because none of us were there at those moments when we have to look at the evidence we have available now to discern what the best beliefs are. And so you can always conclude with that. Say, I don't know for sure, and neither does anyone else. And once again, I think that is the only honest answer. All right, so a quick recap. If you're trying to debate, you're the ardent debater, you can always say, if you get in a spot where you just don't know what to say, you can say, that's an interesting point. I'll think about that and get back to you. Can we resume this conversation some other time? If you're the peaceful avoider and wanting not to talk about it, you can say, I don't wish to discuss it. And then if they keep pressing, say, if you keep pressing, I will need to end the conversation. And finally, the conversational realist, trying to have a good argument or good discussion in good faith, you say, I don't know for sure, and neither does anyone else. But you know what you will know for certain? That I will be very grateful if you like this video and subscribe. I like to end every video with something interesting, amusing, or funny, and this joke today has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the video, but it's just a fun way to end it, so here is the joke. A history teacher and a track coach walk into a bar. When the bartender realizes they're both teachers, he asks them, so what's the most difficult thing that you struggle with in teaching? The history teacher said, oh, my hyperactive kids, I have to make them sit in a desk for an hour, and all they want to do is get up and run around. The track coach said, I have it just as bad. I have a bunch of lazy students, and I have to make them run for an hour, and all they want to do is sit down. And the bartender said, oh, that does sound difficult. What if you tried switching your most difficult students? The track coach could take the hyperactive students who want to run, and the history teacher could take the lazy students who want to sit, and that might fix it. They thought that sounded like a good idea. They agreed to try it, so they finished their drinks and left. Now, some time passed, and they came back to the same bar. When the bartender saw them, he said, hey, how did your experiment go with switching students? The track coach said, oh, it worked great for me. My hyperactive runners, they became great track stars. The bartender said, wow, that's great. He asked the history teacher, how did it go for you? The history teacher said, not good. The hyperactive runners became great athletes, but my lazy historians became cable news commentators. If you found this video helpful or amusing in any way, please show your appreciation by clicking the like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future topics. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye.